What if suffering is not an accident, but the very nature of life? What if happiness is only a brief pause between one desire and the next? Few philosophers have dared to look at existence with such ruthless honesty. Fewer still have built an entire philosophy upon it. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer. To some, he was the greatest pessimist in history. To others, he was one of the few thinkers brave enough to describe the world as it truly is. His ideas inspired Friedrich Nietzsche. They fascinated Sigmund Freud. They influenced artists, musicians, and writers across Europe. Yet during most of his life, almost no one listened. This is the story of a philosopher who spent decades ignored by the world, only to become one of the most influential minds of the modern age. Arthur Schopenhauer was born on February 22, 1788, in the city of Danzig, then part of the Kingdom of Prussia. His father, Heinrich Friedrich Schopenhauer, was a wealthy merchant who believed his son should continue the family business. His mother, Johanna Schopenhauer, was very different. She was intelligent, ambitious, and would later become one of Germany's most respected novelists. Their home was filled with books, travelers, artists, and intellectual conversation. From an early age, Arthur was surrounded by ideas, but he was also surrounded by conflict. His parents saw the world differently. His father valued discipline, commerce, and practical success. His mother admired literature, society, and public recognition. Arthur seemed to belong to neither world completely. As a child, he traveled across Europe with his family. He visited France, England, the Netherlands, and several other countries. These journeys exposed him to different cultures long before most people of his time had ever left their hometowns. Yet instead of filling him with optimism, they awakened difficult questions. Why did wealth fail to make people content? Why did success so often lead to anxiety instead of peace? Why did every achievement seem to create another desire? Those questions stayed with him. Then tragedy struck. In 1805, when Arthur was only 17 years old, his father died. Many historians believe it was suicide, although the exact circumstances remain uncertain. The event deeply affected the young Schopenhauer. It strengthened his belief that beneath the appearance of civilization, human life contained profound suffering. Following his father's death, Arthur briefly entered the world of business. It quickly became clear that commerce was not his calling. Numbers could measure profit, but they could not answer the questions that haunted him. Against expectations, he abandoned the commercial path and devoted himself entirely to philosophy. He studied at the University of Göttingen before continuing in Berlin. There, he immersed himself in the works of Plato and Immanuel Kant. Kant's philosophy transformed the way Schopenhauer thought, but instead of merely repeating Kant's ideas, he pushed them in an entirely new direction. He began asking a radical question. What is the force that drives every living thing? Why do humans endlessly strive? Even after achieving what they once believed would make them happy, years of reflection eventually led him to an answer. He called it the will. According to Schopenhauer, beneath all thought, reason, and civilization lies a blind, restless force. A force that constantly desires, constantly seeks, and is never completely satisfied. People imagine that fulfilling a desire will finally bring lasting happiness. But once one desire is satisfied, another immediately appears. The cycle never ends. To Schopenhauer, this endless striving explained why suffering is so deeply woven into human existence. His philosophy shocked many readers, not because it lacked logic, but because it challenged one of humanity's favorite illusions, the belief that happiness is our natural destination. In 1818, he published his greatest work, The World as Will and Representation. He believed it would change philosophy forever. The world believed otherwise. The book sold poorly. Few critics paid attention. Years of work seemed to disappear into silence. Still, Schopenhauer refused to abandon his ideas. He believed that truth did not become false simply because it was unpopular. He would continue writing, continue thinking, and continue waiting, even if the world refused to listen. Little did he know, his greatest struggle was only beginning. Arthur Schopenhauer believed he had written a masterpiece. The world remained silent. His greatest work had received little attention. Few people read it. Even fewer understood it. For many writers, such disappointment would have been the end. For Schopenhauer, it became another piece of evidence for his philosophy. He believed that human beings rarely recognize truth when it first appears. Instead, they chase popularity, fashion, and comfortable illusions. Determined to establish himself as a philosopher, Schopenhauer accepted the position at the University of Berlin. There, he made a bold and controversial decision. He scheduled his lectures at exactly the same time as those of the most famous philosopher in Germany, Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel's lecture halls were overflowing with students. Schopenhauer's classroom remained almost empty. Week after week, only a handful of listeners appeared. Eventually, he abandoned teaching altogether. The experience left him deeply disappointed. He believed philosophy had become too complicated, too obsessed with abstract language, too disconnected from ordinary human life. He often criticized philosophers who, in his view, valued reputation more than truth. His criticism made him few friends. But Schopenhauer had never sought popularity. He sought honesty. As the years passed, he lived a quiet and disciplined life. He settled in Frankfurt, where he spent much of his time walking through the city, reading ancient texts and writing. His closest companion was a small poodle. He gave several of his dogs the same name throughout his life. At home, he surrounded himself with books. He read the Greek philosophers. He admired Plato. He continued studying Immanuel Kant. He also developed a deep respect for the ancient wisdom of India. The Upanishads and Buddhist teachings fascinated him. He believed they had recognized something that many Western philosophers had overlooked. That endless desire is the source of suffering. Although Schopenhauer never became a Buddhist, many readers noticed remarkable similarities between his philosophy and Eastern thought. For him, escaping suffering did not mean chasing more pleasure. It meant learning to free ourselves from the endless tyranny of desire. He believed that art offered one of the rare moments in which human beings could briefly escape the restless will. When we truly lose ourselves in music, in poetry, or in great painting, our desires fall silent. For a moment, we simply observe. We simply exist. Among all the arts, music held a special place in his heart. He believed music expressed the deepest structure of reality itself, not through words, but through emotion, through harmony, through something beyond logic. Years passed, then decades. Still, recognition refused to arrive. Schopenhauer entered old age believing that history might forget him. But history had other plans. During the final years of his life, something unexpected happened. A new generation of readers discovered his books. Young philosophers began discussing his ideas. Artists admired his honesty. Writers found themselves drawn to his understanding of human suffering. At last, the silence was broken. The philosopher, who had spent most of his life ignored, suddenly became famous. Ironically, the recognition he had waited for arrived when he no longer needed it. His ideas spread quickly across Europe. Among those deeply influenced by Schopenhauer was a young scholar named Friedrich Nietzsche. Although Nietzsche would later disagree with many of his conclusions, he always acknowledged Schopenhauer as one of the thinkers who shaped his intellectual journey. Years later, Sigmund Freud explored hidden desires within the human mind. Many scholars observed striking connections between Freud's theories and Schopenhauer's earlier reflections on unconscious forces. Writers such as Leo Tolstoy, Thomas Mann, and Marcel Proust also found inspiration in his work. His influence reached far beyond philosophy. It entered literature, psychology, music, and modern culture itself. On September 21st, 1860, Arthur Schopenhauer died peacefully in Frankfurt. He was 72 years old. There were no grand political achievements attached to his name. He had never ruled a nation. He had never commanded an army. He left behind no empire of stone. Instead, he left an empire of ideas. Even today, readers continue to debate his philosophy. Some believe he saw the world too darkly. Others believe he simply refused to comfort humanity with pleasant illusions. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Schopenhauer never claimed that life was easy. He believed that suffering, loss, and disappointment are part of the human condition. But he also believed that wisdom begins the moment we stop expecting life to satisfy every desire. When we understand ourselves, when we appreciate beauty without trying to possess it, when we act with compassion because we recognize our shared suffering, we become freer than we were before. Arthur Schopenhauer did not ask people to abandon life. He asked them to see it clearly, to recognize that chasing endless desire can never bring lasting peace, and that true freedom begins not when we possess more, but when we need less. More than a century after his death, his voice still echoes through philosophy, psychology, and literature, because the question he asked remains timeless. If desire never ends, where can lasting peace truly be found? Perhaps that is why Arthur Schopenhauer remains one of history's most unforgettable philosophers. Not because he promised happiness, but because he challenged humanity to search for something deeper than happiness itself. Wisdom.